framework and mindset kick for the last, I feel like 2 months. I feel like all this has been leading to this conversation.
Um, it has, and honestly, what inspired it really, well, yesterday was part of it, but another conversation, well, you and I had conversations about it previously about different things, there being mutiny on the ship and things of that nature, right? And
Yeah.
so I recently had a conversation where somebody was expressing their dissatisfaction with certain things, right? And it got me to like kind of comparing it to um some professional situations where clients of mine had that, where like, I'm working as a cohesive unit with maybe a lender, whomever, and then there's this dissension from, maybe the client I'm working with or whatever in regards to one of the people on the team. And most of the people who I work with, I admire, I respect, especially if I'm breaking bread with them. I have
Yeah.
the utmost respect for them as professionals. They respect me. It goes both ways, and I respect what they say and how they conduct themselves. And I would say that the majority of the people I work with are extremely professional. And so if I'm getting um some resistance or some negative feedback or even some hostility, I'm quick to be like, let me try to diffuse, resolve, come from a place of contribution, because the goal is to get to the finish line, you know. And so, in having a couple different conversations, some of them real estate related, some of them not real estate related. It really got me to thinking like how a person's mindset is definitely, everything rises and falls on that. That's going to determine your latitude, your longitude, everything about what you're doing and how you're moving and how you're sitting is going to be determined by your mindset. And if your mindset is coming from a place of negativity, hostility, and or prior trauma where you're not able to fully understand or even receive information that's being given to you, that's something that I think this conversation could benefit a lot of people, because I think that some people don't even know that that's what they're dealing with. They're just maybe turned off by a certain type of personality, or they feel like, oh, I don't like how this person's talking to me. This person's talking to me in a way that I don't like. But they're not saying to themselves, like, well, what is it about the message that I'm getting that's making me feel this way? Why am I interpreting it as something negative when, obviously we're here, we're working together as a team, everybody has a collective goal. And that requires some self-reflection. And I think a lot of people can benefit from this.
Said a lot. I guess when you're talking about these circumstances where you've encountered this type of dissension or counterproductive behavior, or how a person's energy being counterproductive.
Hmm.
Like in this example that I think I'm hearing, it sounds like you have a person that is working with your team, but because they're being rubbed the wrong way by somebody that you know is moving with the right spirit, is coming with a spirit of contribution, the person just isn't receiving. And instead of focusing on how they can take that information and constructively apply it, it sounds like they're just interested in conflict, resistance, pushing back, maybe even bad mouth and de-edifying the person you're working with. Am I hearing that correctly?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
9.5 times out of 10, the person who is bringing that negativity and hostility um, is not knowledgeable in the areas that that other person is knowledgeable. And
Mm,
it's like, well, we brought this person onto the team to help us with these certain objectives, and we're working towards the objectives. But if you're not willing to receive this information and not willing to follow the plays that this, teammate is putting down, then, we're basically dead in the water, pretty much, and a lot of times it's like it takes a minute to get through to people, but they do at most of the time kind of follow suit after I, work on it. Like, hey, look, this is, what we're here to do, and this is this person's objective. They're coming from a place of contribution. I don't. It's always a very delicate rope to try to balance, because you don't want to alienate that person and make that person feel like they're not being heard, but you also don't want to trauma bond and feed the
mm.
hostility and negativity. You want to diffuse and push forward.
Yeah, I get it. It's interesting. I think it was about a year ago, maybe a little over a year ago. A business owner that I had been working with came to me and said she was in I guess, a bit of a bind financially, needed capital. Her and her partner didn't make the best decisions with their business. Um, and as a result, it was urgent, it was dire, right? And me being me, um, why I acknowledged what was going on, I asked questions I needed to ask to figure out exactly what the method or what strategy should be to extricate themselves from a really bad situation financially, where they were bleeding money, they were earning, but they were bleeding the money just as fast as they were earning. And for me, what I began to ask, I wanted to figure out, okay, because if you come into 100,000 or 200,000, you haven't solved the core issue, then you're going to be right back where you're at again, right?
Absolutely.
So I
Yeah.
began asking questions to kind of figure out what's the mindset here. Like, what are the decisions that led you to this place? Why did you make these decisions? And, you know, not to be super harsh, but the reality of the matter is, oftentimes as entrepreneurs and business owners, um, what I found to be the kiss of death is trying to keep up with the Joneses. That's number one, right? So that's something I've resisted. Like, I tell people all the time, you'll never know whether or not I have the money based on what I'm wearing or what I'm driving. You'll never know. Matter of fact, those who watch me close, they'll know that they'll observe that the more laid back I seem to be in terms of my outward appearance, um, I'm probably it's an inverse relationship, right?
Hmm.
The more I have, the less I spend. So um, that's kind of like my thing. Like, I'm not at the stage, and I'm not in a space where it's required that I show up in bling bling. And one of the things that I saw was this person was really, really, really concerned about how other people saw them, felt about them based on how they were spending their money. And so I knew right away that some of the expenditures they were making in their business or mistakes they made, that was the genesis of some of it, right? The other thing that I saw right away when dealing with this person was that a business owner can be good at selling their product or service. They can know their industry backwards and forwards, right? And this business owner, to their credit, knows their industry like the back of her hand. She knows it. I have nothing but regard and respect for it, because it's very rare that I come across a business owner who's working in an industry where I don't know enough about it to be dangerous. In this particular instance, I was like an infant listening to the person. So I could appreciate their expertise. But the other issue on the flip side of it is, and I tell people all the time, doctors are good at cutting, opening people up, and repairing. That's what they're good at. Most of the doctors and physicians that I've met, no matter how brilliant they are, they're terrible at finances. They're terrible at investing. Just terrible at that stuff, right? It's not their forte. They earn all this money. They don't know what to do with it. I tell people all the time, attorneys are good at the attorneys are good at the law. The law is legal; it's not allowed to them, and they know that language better than anyone else. And so they don't have to be all that bright. They don't have to be all that intelligent or astute at certain things. When it comes to navigating that courtroom, you can catch serious beatdown from an attorney because they know the law,
Mhm.
right? And oftentimes, business owners fall into the trap of not respecting or holding someone else's expertise in a high enough regard, right? And it sounds like that is also an issue that may be present in terms of the person you're dealing with. Then I remember a conversation I had with a partner that it was a loose partnership. It was kind of like a handshake. We were doing things together. It was mutually beneficial. But I remember one day we were having a sales management conversation. Um, and I love the work that we did. I love this project we're involved in. And it was a chance to express myself, to get my nerd out. You know what I'm saying? It was a chance to write. It was a chance to touch people at scale, make an impact, change people's mindset, give them access to information. I loved everything about it. But I remember one day, and it's inevitable, even with the best partners, you're going to get into disputes. Got into a dispute. And I was talking to the person about how to shape an offer to bring in more revenues in terms of specifically ad revenues into the business and the type of conversations you need to have and the type of people you need to talk to. And I remember the person time and time again was just like cutting me off, short circuiting the conversation, sabotaging it. And finally, I said to her, I'm like, look, I've been doing this for over a decade. You drop me in any industry, and my track record says this. You drop me in any industry, once I grasp the value prop, I'm off and running. I'm going to have success. I always manage to extinguish myself in the top percentile. I haven't always become elite in everything that I've done, but I've always definitely created separation for myself and everyone else. And I was like, you have no sales management experience. Like, you have no, like, you don't have business acting in that type of way. I was like, why are you putting this resistance? And I remember she said to me, she says, look, I don't care about your over a decade experience. I don't care about your achievements, your certificates, your this, your that, your this, that, and other. This is the way I feel. And yeah, and right away, it was like, I just politely bowed out. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't make it, which showed it was a lot of growth for me because years ago, it'd have been like Mortal Kombat. I'd have been like, oh, really? And it'd have been a battle, right, for power and control over the business. And I just kind of let it go. I walked away from the table. I was like, that's cool. I can't empathize with you. I can't understand what you're saying, but it's just obvious to me that we're here for different things.
We're just not on the same page, and
Yeah.
that's okay.
And
Yeah.
I just, and so, and the person admitted after the fact that it was drama. It was trauma. It was trauma that they were dealing with. Like they knew I was right. They knew this is the direction we were supposed to go. They knew what I was sharing was the optimal approach. But
Mhm.
because of their trauma with other people who preceded me and their trauma that was going on in their lives personally, they couldn't receive the information correctly from me. And, for me, at this stage of the game, that was very, hell, damn near traumatizing to me because there are people that I work with that I don't like. There are people whom I take coaching from that I don't necessarily like. Like, we're not going to get together at Thanksgiving and Christmas. It's not going to happen.
Right.
There are people whom I respect the world of them in terms of what they've been able to accomplish. But their modus operandi doesn't sit well with my spirit, right?
Mhm.
But I still work with them. I still partner with them periodically. I still work on projects. I still build things with them because at the end of the day, I just don't. I feel like, especially when it comes to men, if I'm dealing with a man that is emotional, that's coming from that place, to me, that person is dangerous because they're not operating out of principle. They're not operating for the good of the whole. It's a very myopic, selfish approach, a lens in terms of looking at the work to be done and the people around you. And it's dangerous because they can hurt a project, they can hurt the clients, they can hurt me, they can hurt themselves, not even knowing it unwittingly. Like, as I'm thinking about all those different scenarios, I'll go back to what I started with. So this lady's having those issues. I introduced her to another professional. Once again, another professional that is highly effective, highly comes from financial services industry like I do. She and I probably forgot more about finance and investment planning and managing money than 90% of the US population. Easy, probably 98%, right? So, I mean, it's just part of our DNA, is the way we see the world. But this person is in it. I'm distanced from it. I've not been in that space in that kind of way in a long time. She's in it. There are several business owners I can point up into War, up and down Michigan Avenue, Woodward, Gratiot, that we've collaborated on and helped those business owners scale from 5 to 6, 7 figures, right? And pull people out some really tight pace. I introduced those people. And right away, I started getting phone calls from this person, um, talking a bad mouth and the individual I introduced, saying, she's not meeting this timeline, not meeting this deadline, not keeping her promises, this, that, and the other. And me being me, I tried to stay neutral because it's a client of mine versus someone I partner with frequently, right? So I had the conversation with the person I partner with frequently, and I didn't share all the salacious stuff that was being said, but I just kind of shared, okay, these are the bottom line issues that are transforming, right? And I also know the person's modus operandi. I know her contract because I was involved in helping curate some of it, right? I know some of the timelines she's created because I've worked with her periodically, so I know how she operates. I know the modus operandi, right? I also understand that when it comes to acquiring financing, there's so many moving parts. There's business credit, there's personal credit, there's tax issues, there's debts. Sometimes the people you're partnering with have issues going on in the background that can make it extremely difficult to acquire funding along a certain timeline. Also, people don't like to follow directions. You ask them to do certain things, they want to go about it their way, right? Sometimes they just don't have a healthy enough regard for another person's expertise, and they kind of half-ass the instructions that were given to them. And I knew all this stuff was taking place. And I remember I told the client, I was like, look, if you think I'm going to blow this person up on your behalf, and I know how effective they are, I've seen their track record. We've worked on projects that they've been a benefit to me and so many other people around me. You barking up the wrong tree. And, of course, I started asking about the details in terms of what was going on. And I found out that was exactly the case. The client wasn't following directions. The client wasn't providing information in a timely manner. The client, as opposed to taking the approach that was shared with her, she decided she wanted to try to hustle 2 or 3 other things on the side, right? Getting involved in all these other projects. And I was just looking at her like, it was like that danger zone. So what's the danger zone? The moment you start the moment works with you starts contradicting my principles and values, like my core principles and values, you're not my ideal client. I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna let you go because we can't work together. It's just, it's not right. And I could tell this person values and core principles were not in alignment. And then she was running up against that in terms of how you conduct business. Like, it's so hard to be a successful entrepreneur, number one. I don't care about your background, complexion. I don't care. It's difficult to be successful over the long term. You can have moments, but it's difficult to be successful over the course of time, like come out years and decades. And then especially in our community, um, and more specifically Black and Brown community, it's exceptionally difficult. We have to deal with the extra BS.com, right? We have to deal with people who can be discriminatory. We have to deal with structural deficits that we may have, right? Access to things that other communities have that we don't have access to, which can cause problems, right? It's so much more involved being successful as a person that's, Black or brown. And so I'm always very, very reluctant to blow up another business owner. Because if they've been in business for more than 5 years, I know the price they paid because I know the price I've paid to be in business for 2 decades, right? And operating entrepreneur space. So
There is a price to be paid. Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, I'm slow to blow them up. Um, and we ended up helping the person out, but I did have to have that conversation. Like, you're operating real short term, you're being very myopic. It's real easy to think that it's just about you. And to behave or not care or be callous about how your behavior, how you're moving, the conversations you're having, your approach is problematic because you're being self-centered. You're thinking about your needs and wants. It's like the person that comes into the restaurant and doesn't want to be seated by the host. They just want to seat wherever they want to sit. Well, you don't know whether or not that table's been reserved. You don't know whether or not that waiter that was working that section is in the middle of a break, or whether or not they're waiting to change shifts. You don't know. You don't know um, whether or not the restaurant owner has decided to shut down that section of the restaurant because the traffic slows down at that time. But you want to insist on having it your way. And all you're going to do is create a worse situation. Number one, you're not going to get the customer service you expect because if the person isn't available to serve you, that means you're going to be sitting there 15, 30 minutes and you're going to have a bad experience. If that part of the restaurant is shut down or they shut down certain parts of the menu or the kitchen, um, then they got to fire up the oven and a whole bunch of other things need to transpire in order for them to serve that section or serve that dish or serve that thing that you want, right? Which once again may end up being the quality of the food. The quality of service is going to suffer. So you're going to be upset. You're going to be angry about that, right? Sometimes when you are the customer or the client of someone, you need to understand that they've been in business for an extended period of time. Their modus operandus and their systems and their approach are ultimately designed to give you the best outcome, right? Um, and part of me is thinking that I don't know. I've just gotten to the point where when I come across that, I am very quick to fire a customer. I'm very quick to walk them and say, you know what, we wanted to help you out, but this ain't gonna work out. Especially, right? If you're moving and operating in such a way that is making it more difficult to serve you. Maybe you're just not there yet. Maybe, there's some maturation you take, but maybe you need to bump your head. Maybe you need a little bit more pain. You need to feel the pain more acutely, right? Or quite frankly, you need to go out there and get a $5 haircut. Maybe you need to be messed over a couple times so you can understand what good looks like, right? I mean, I don't know. Those are some of the things that I'm thinking about while I'm listening to you. Because it's interesting. It's different when you're talking about these issues when you're doing for partners, or if you're having conflict with someone that you're in business with, versus when you are having that type of conflict with a client or somebody that you're serving. Like that's man, that's such a different dynamic. So my initial response is number one, take ultimate accountability. That's the first thing I do. If something goes sideways with a prospect or a customer or somebody I'm serving in some fashion, shape, or form, the first thing I ask myself is what could I have done to make the situation better? What could I have done to alleviate this person's consternation? What could I have done to be more proficient and exceed expectations, right? And I know some of the errors I've made in the past where things have gone south for clients. Thankfully, it happens rarely, but I know the mistakes I made. So that's the first thing I do. Man, after you take an ultimate accountability and somebody is still acting, I mean, nah,
Well, all money isn't good money, so
yeah,
it may not be the right fit for whatever reason. Sometimes people's personalities don't mesh either. You have to be able to quickly identify something that just doesn't, like you said, align with your value system and how your standard operating procedures, what you're trying to do, and be able to quickly cut rope and say, you know what, this
yeah.
isn't gonna work.
I
I'm
just I
interested in,
don't like it when it boils down to personality though. I
I mean,
don't care. I don't care about a person's personality. You know what I mean? Like,
that's superficial. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's called you need some personal and professional development. Like, I was having a conversation, with my significant other, and what we were talking about was how you can be having all kinds of issues and conflicts in your business or at your work, and how you got to be careful not to bring those issues home.
Yes.
And, I said, my attitude is my children in particular did not choose to be born. I made decisions that result in them being birthed into this world. So they did not choose this. They did not, they, they did not choose the occupation. So, and the stresses and the price to be paid to be successful doing the things I do. They had no choice in that. Now, that does not mean they don't need to know their position, right? But they didn't have a choice in that. And for me, I said, if I am bringing issues home, frustrations, angers, resentments, if I'm bringing a certain energy home, what that basically means is I have to become bigger than the problems outside of my home. I have to solve those problems. I've become bigger than those issues. So I don't bring that conflict to my household, right? That's my responsibility. Because they should get the best of me. They shouldn't get the worst of me. They shouldn't get, you know what I mean? Um, I don't know. I'm just thinking, like I said, I can see the people's faces whom I just don't vibe with. I don't like the personality, but I would never detonate a deal or detonate the bag, mess up the bag, fumble the bag um, over a person's personality alone. It's just like, okay, these are the conditions I'm going to work with you. These are the things you're effective and good at. I'm going to give you the space to do what you need to do. Like, I don't know, like, as you can tell, I bristle whenever I hear someone hating on someone just because they don't like their personality. Like, I bristle because you don't know what that person's going through. You don't know what issues, demons, traumas, whatever it is, they're dealing with, right? And as long as their behavior, never mind their personality, as long as their behavior is not problematic, that person has value, right? I don't know. I'm listening to you, and that's what I'm thinking about.
Well, I think that too, sometimes when you don't like a person's personality, or maybe that's a comment someone made, you have to kind of take into consideration like what has that person like been through in their life that made them create that particular persona, or why that's what they're showing to the outside world. It could be something
Yeah.
that maybe they've had, certain situations that have occurred, and like in a professional setting, they feel like they need to be a certain type of way because of the things that they've experienced. Like, for example, if you're a woman in a male dominated field, right? And you have experienced um, negative energy, hostility, people trying to discredit you, people discriminating against you because of your gender, or just like misogynistic energy being directed at you. You, you putting myself in that situation, move a certain way and look at things a certain way. Like if you're going on a job site, you're like, all right, let me throw on my uniform so people know like I'm here for business. It's there, I'm not here for any other purpose. Um,
Yep.
and like even when people try to make small talk with you on that type of environment, you're quick to not respond to anything that doesn't have to do with work,
Mhm.
because your mentality is like, I don't want to open that door to where, someone might misconstrue that for something other than, hey, this is a professional situation. I'm here to get the bag. And so, having those kind of experiences myself, I feel like someone looking, an outsider looking in could be like, oh man, like she's dry, she doesn't have no personality, or she's not approachable, or she's not personable. It's not any of those things. It's just mainly being aware of how in that particular environment things can get misconstrued, or someone could mistake you being cordial and nice as something that it's not. And so you're
Yep.
very aware of those things. And, like you said, to the outsider, they might be like, well, I don't like her personality because she's not personable. Not knowing that this person has been through 10 years of people trying to discredit you, people trying to sabotage your projects, people trying to steal money from you, steal materials from you. People who you've collaborated with, like just straight up, like taking the dagger and like twisting it, you know. Um, and I'm laughing about it, but there's nothing funny about it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Those are situations that I have, experienced in a professional setting, where that kind of stuff happened. And as a result, there's certain type of projects that I won't take on, certain type of situations where I'm like, not for the kid. Thanks, but no thanks.
Yep.
So on and so forth. And it's all based off of perfect experiences in that field with at the hands of other people. And some of the stuff is just downright diabolical, where you're just like,
Mhm.
like this right here is crazy. This
Mhm.
crazy work right here. Like what's really going on? Like, do I remind you of someone who um victimized you? Like what is this?
Yeah.
You- um
Yeah.
and I'm quite sure it's not just me. I'm quite sure it's happened to a lot of people. Like, you've talked about um hostility being thrown at you, and like we say, the only pepper or cinnamon in the room, and you're getting these vibes, and you're like, oh wow, this is special,
Yeah.
you know par for the course, of course, because this is the business that we've chosen. So
Yep.
well, anything that I just described, I'm not taking none of that stuff personal. I'm just, sharing the experience, and, saying, hey, it didn't go unnoticed, but I'm still here. And I just use those experiences to guide me. And I know what to do, and most importantly, I know what not to do. Because like
Yeah.
taking accountability for yourself, like sometimes you have to replay the situation and be like, okay, well, I probably shouldn't have allowed this, or I probably should have nipped this in the bud as soon as I seen it as a potential issue. Um, because sometimes when you let stuff ride and you're like, okay, yeah, whatever, I'm just going to blow it off, I'm going to blow it off, that sends the wrong message too. Sometimes you do have to address things and have to have those uncomfortable conversations with people.
Mhm. You
It's
know, it's a balancing act. It now we're getting to the art of it,
Mhm.
right? We're getting to the art of it. Man, you said a lot there. I think when you're an entrepreneur and a business owner, one of the most important lessons I know I've learned is the difference between being right and being effective. I don't always have to be right, as long as I'm effective, as long as I get it done. Like I don't have to win every argument. I don't have to win every conflict, right? Um, you'll get so bogged down with that stuff that you'll lose the war because you're trying to win every battle, right? I've learned that as long majority of time, like I said, as long as it doesn't run up against my principles and values, um, that it's important to be flexible. It's important to be flexible, especially when you're building business relationships with other people and take the time to understand other people. You know, I'm thinking about something in an interview. I think it was on TikTok, and Jay-Z was talking about this. I can't remember exactly who was interviewing him, but he was talking about how, and I experience this a lot on the block myself, right? You'll be walking by a group of people or talking to a group of people, interacting with someone, and it's like they'll get upset that you looked at, or they'll get upset because you showed up a certain type of way, and they'll throw up this bravado, right? All of a sudden they want to get hostile. And I experienced that a lot growing up. And so what he shared, immediately resonated with me. He said, one of the most important lessons he learned was, oh, this isn't personal. Like, you're not mad at me. You're mad because I see you. You're mad because you're afraid I see your trauma. I see your insecurity. I see the issues. I see your anger. And it upsets because you're aware that I see that the bravado is just subterfuge. It's just cover for all the pain and anger and frustration and lack that you have in your life, right? Um, and that's why you're upset that I see you. I'm looking at you. I know, and that my presence and the fact that I have achieved, I have done these things is so upsetting because it illuminates, it highlights what you are, right? Um, man, I that's something you have to contend with all the time. Something you have to contend with all the time. There's a lot of clients that I deal with like that. Like I show up a certain type of way because they really knew how intelligent I am. If they really knew how much wisdom I have, they really knew how capable I was, they wouldn't do business because it would offend their sensibility. So sometimes I do play the game where I just kind of sit back and I smile and I let them think they're in control. I let them think I don't know anything. I just let them do their thing, right? Um, human nature, man, and people's mindset, frameworks, and insecurity. Like what you did was basically decide that I'm not going to try to be right. I'm going to try to be effective, right? I deal with that all the time when I'm dealing with business owners who are lighter skinned fellow citizens here in the United States. I
Mhm.
deal with that all the time. And people want to get mad. Well, I should be able to do this, and I should do that, and I should be able to do this and show up this kind of way. It's like, yeah, you should. You're right. I'm not interested. I want to be effective, right? If I have to come in jeans and a t-shirt, looking a little bit downtrodden, looking another dusty, but you know, if I have to walk into a space and not look like money, um, to get the deal, make a person feel comfortable around me, so I don't inflame whatever concerns or issues they have, and so be it. That's what I'm going to do. If I have to show up, and looking like money, and to be quote unquote attractive or amiable or amicable. Um, you know, so a person, appeal to a person's palate, then sometimes that's what I'm gonna have to do. But this idea, like, I'm trying not to go here because I'm in a public place. I'm trying to, I'm trying not to go here, but I also want to be honest because I know people who listen to this may need to hear this. But people, entrepreneurs, and the Black and brown community have this issue bad: the insecurity, right? I've said it time and time again. A lot of successful entrepreneurs, and I define success as people being able to earn enough money to take care of their family, okay, generate revenue, be able to sustain a certain type of a lifestyle, right? Get out of check to check. But you'd be surprised how insecure many of them are, right? Because they don't have a certain type of education or a certain type of acumen. They don't come from a certain type of environment. They weren't born in a certain type of zip code. Um, a lot of times, entrepreneurs in our community will have all the confidence in the world in terms of swagger. Like, they'll have all the confidence. They'll be able to execute. They'll be able to hustle and work, but they don't have esteem. And oftentimes, the way people respond to other people is not a reflection of the person; it's a reflection of them and their lack of esteem. Right? I don't want you to make me look bad or make me look stupid, or you know, um, it reminds me of 300-pound, you know, workout
Fitness and
fitness instructor, right? The one that sit up and argue with me, right? Um, that for me, I think about that, and because of the place I am in my life, I could have went in on her. I could have, made it a real embarrassing, uncomfortable situation for that person, right? But I chose not to because that person's opinion or whatever was coming out of her mouth and whatever her perspective was, that's not a reflection of me, right? That's a reflection of her. Um, but you have that a lot in our community, um, where once again, people's insecurities rule the day. And it adds an extra layer because I think it's more pronounced in our community. Um, like I said, all the confidence in the world in terms of executing, getting things done, getting to the bag. But because they don't have esteem for themselves and they have all these insecurities, they treat people absent esteem too, right? Let's just be real. Sometimes people really believe that other people's sugar is sweeter, and other people's ice cubes are colder, right? Um, we have to contend with that all the time. That because of the veneer that we have doesn't look like the veneer of other people. Um, people don't give you the respect and regard because they don't have respect and regard for themselves and no esteem in terms of their identity. Um, and that's something we have to contend with. And I'm really inclined to believe that was the issue with that lady that you're referencing. She came to the table with a lot of insecurity. She came to the table upset, angry, dealing with whatever traumas or ghosts that she's dealing with. And that person was inflaming her. Like,
I yeah.
yeah, who are
And
you to tell me? Well, my 20 years is why I'm telling you this. Who are you to
right.
tell me? Well, let's look at the library. Let's look at the degree certifications and look at the track purchase test. That's why we're having a conversation.
And even the person who it was the negativity was directed towards was able to quickly identify it and
Mm-hmm.
like to the side and was like, "Look, Adrian, I need you to do X, Y, and Z because this person
Yep.
isn't receiving this information, and I'm gonna tell you why." And I I had an epiphany in that moment because I was just like, wow, like I guess because my experiences growing up were completely different, I would never have put that together. Um,
Mhm.
Something that's like happening and that's really affecting people. But once he said it, I saw it clearly. Yeah, I was,
Yeah.
oh wow, okay, you're totally right. Because now that you're bringing this up, I see it for exactly what it is. And he referred back to several conversations we had had, and every time he started talking, she stopped listening. It would like it would just, and she kept repeating herself, and it would just be like, okay, like what are we
Yeah.
doing? But it was a real conversation. Of course we did end up getting the job done, and we won the war, but it definitely taught me some other skills, and able to quickly identify those kind of things before they occur, when you could kind of see the writing on the wall, like, okay, let me quickly intervene here and have this pep talk with this person so that they can kind of get back on track with why we're really here, and why
Yeah.
your perception of this other person is tonterías. It's nonsense. It doesn't matter. It has no bearing on the goal here. So I think it's really important as entrepreneurs and business owners for us to be able to quickly pinpoint those situations to keep situations from derailing, because let's face it, we're all here to be successful, we're all here to win, and be effective and efficient. Like you said, it's not about anything other than that. I want to win, you want to win, so let's win.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like when you have a certain degree of esteem for yourself and you know who you are, what you are, and sometimes even whose you are, you're okay playing tambourine.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's okay to play tambourine, right? There are going to be other people who are more effective than you, more capable than you. And if you got your mind right, and you got your spirit right, and your framework right, your beliefs about who you are and your place in the world around you, you actually desire that. You want very capable, very able, very experienced, very intelligent. You want people whose gifts in certain areas outshine yours. Because that makes you better.
Absolutely, you want those people to pour into you and
Yes.
up like you're their child, because I've had that experience many times, both before being a full-time entrepreneur and afterwards. And I'm
Mhm.
grateful to every single person, whoever did that for me, whether they knowingly knew they were my mentor or didn't know that they were my
Mhm.
mentor. Even negative experiences that I've had, I'm grateful for those too, because I feel like it shaped me and molded me and showed me, okay, yeah, this right here, this was terrible. But learned. I learned, and it costs to
Yeah.
learn. Everything isn't going to be, oh my God, this is amazing, so wonderful, especially in the fields I'm in, construction and real estate.
Oh
Most
my God.
people can tell you,
Mhm.
you're never going to say, oh my God, this was so amazing. This was just so beautiful. And no, that's probably not what you're going to say. You're going to say, hey, you know what? We had some bumps along the way, but we made it, on to the
I,
next. So,
yeah, man. It's
par for the course. This is the business we've
yes,
chosen to be in.
yes.
And one of my mentors always said that too. He would always say that. He would not take things personal. People would come in acting crazy, foaming at the mouth, and he would be calm and he would listen, and he'd say, well, how can we favorably resolve this? What are we looking to do here? And there
Mhm.
was never any sort of like um, him talking down to anybody. Who was just very genuinely trying to work things out.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's definitely it's a mixed bag, and it's always something to talk about and always something that you can learn and grow from in this industry and in this business and dealing with all these different personalities and scenarios and situations that unfold on a daily basis.
Yeah. The way you ultimately avoid a lot of this stuff, right? Um, is you got to remember ultimately what you're doing is you're building tribes. That's how I think about it, right? I'm building tribes, and tribes have values, principles, rules of engagement. We call them standard operating procedures, but that's what they are, right? Common understanding, um, getting on the same page in terms of what the end game is or end goal, right? That's how you build tribes.
Hmm.
Um, and you're gonna have some people on the outskirts of the tribe doing whatever it is that they do. Um, but you're trying to looking to build that core tribe, and that when it comes to the type of clients you deal with, when it deals with the type of partners you deal with, mentors and coaches you deal with, when you can get to a point where you define what tribe or who your tribe is, you will avoid a lot of this stuff. Um, yeah, it just it eliminates a lot of the type of conflicts we've been talking about today. Um, eliminates a lot of it. I think that's one of the most difficult things for entrepreneurs to do. And ultimately, the other thing too is be successful. So you can choose. Be successful so you can choose.
Absolutely.
Yeah, where you can get to the point where yeah, and it's not judging anyone because I've been there. I've been at a point where it's like I gotta take the business however I can get it. I know this person is effed up, but I got $100. I get it. Like I don't want anyone ever misconstrue and think that um, if you're at that place, anyone's looking down on you because any entrepreneur is being honest, unless you were born on third base. Um, if you had to get out the dirt, we've all been there where we've dealt with unsavory people because we just had to do what we need to earn the revenue we need to earn, right? We got in bed with some wrong. We've all learned that lesson the hard way.
Mhm.
But the sooner you can get on the other side of the fence, man, it's so much more peaceful.
Peaceful and beneficial and more
Yep.
profitable when you're able
Yes.
to really, identify those situations that are just not aligning with your value system or what your goals are. You're able to quickly like, okay, nope, gotta pivot next.
Something I've been thinking about doing that I've gotten away from is it's time for me to take another personality test, like one of those Myers Briggs tests. Um, I remember something that benefited me early on, particularly maybe about 10 years ago, is I was much more aware of number one, how people like to learn, and I was much more aware of the motivators and drivers inside of people, right?
Mhm.
Oversimplification is, you have people who want to be influential, right? They want to be out front. They want to be the man or be the woman or be the boss, right? And those type of people typically don't they don't fare well if they can't be out front. If they can't get the recognition. And it's good because those people also tend to be ambitious. But it's problematic too because sometimes those people will take shortcuts. And then if they can't be out front or leading the thing or controlling the thing, um, they'll abandon it or even sabotage it.
About to say that or sabotage it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then
Yes.
you have then you have people who are
And that's
um,
within itself. That's very
yeah,
dangerous. Yeah.
yeah, gotta watch them. Then you have people who are, they just want everybody to get along.
Mhm.
They want everybody to love each other. It's like, yeah, I know this person did this, but we're all people and gotta empathize with them, and they just want people to have warm, fuzzy feelings towards each other. They just want stability and community and camaraderie, and they want everybody, regardless of whether they're contributing or not, or if they're problematic or not. They just, and you need those people. Those are the glue people. Those are the relationship people. But those are also the people where when the shit gets thick, when conflicts arise, when a decision needs to be made, it's not popular, it won't feel good, that it's going to be tough. You don't want those people in charge because they won't make the tough decision and they won't say the things that need to be said. Sometimes, I mean, people forget that entrepreneurship is blood sport. Underneath it all is blood sport. It's competition. So, in order to remain competitive, or it's like I compare it to people like if you had a arm that was gangrene from the elbow down, that person would be trying to still save that part of the arm. Where the reality of the matter is, if the rest of the organism to survive and grow, you got to cut it off. Those people won't do that, right? Um, you have people who are focused on the bottom line. They don't care how the sausage gets made. Let's get it done, right? They execute. They meet timelines. They meet deadlines. They make sure that hook or crook the sausage gets made, right? And you need result oriented people. But
Mhm.
sometimes result oriented people don't care about people's feelings. They don't care about whether or not there's camaraderie. They just want the result. Um, they don't care how many eggs get cracked along the way, right? Their attitude is, well, hell, we're making an omelet. Some eggs got to get opened up, it's got to happen. But you need those people. But that's the flip side of it.
You do.
Uh,
You need a nice balance. You do.
yeah, yeah. Some of those people can act like, I'm trying to think of it, is it more like sociopath, psychopath? But you get the point, right? They can borderline personality disorder people. Like they just don't have the empathy for all of that stuff. Let's just get it done,
Right.
right? Um, then you have the creators, right? The creators are like, hey, we're creating this, ideals, vision. Um, they can see typically three, four. They look, they exist on the edge. They see things first, right?
Mhm.
They tend to be very idiosyncratic, a lot of nerds. They may not think they are, but they're creative. They're always thinking of solutions. They're always thinking and pontificating about what the next steps need to be. They typically look to account for all the elements that are circling around them. It's like, so there's one form of intelligence. There's the type of intelligence where you can learn things and regurgitate. You can memorize things. Um, you can grasp a business model and execute, right? And make things happen. That is a form of intelligence, right? But there's another form of intelligence where you can take different pieces of information and aggregate and encapsulate and figure out where it all goes, where it all fits, and create something novel or new, right? Um, Creatives can also take you off track. They become so committed to the vision, not realizing that no, man, you're climbing a ladder, and I know what you envision, what you think's gonna happen. I get it. Your heart's in it, but you're climbing a ladder to a building, and when you get to the top, you might not like what you're gonna see,
Right.
right? sometimes creatives are not necessarily, on the flip side of it, sometimes creatives are not necessarily grounded in the reality of the situation. They can be blindsided because you're so committed to your vision, you're so committed to the creative energy, you're so committed to the thing, you don't even realize that you're surrounded by adversaries and they are sticking daggers in your behind. You know what I mean? Like you haven't done the work to bring a lot of people along with you, right?
Right.
Um, and creatives can kind of be like influencers in the sense that the moment you disrupt the project, the moment they fall out of love with the project, they may jump ship. It's just a creative typically is not going to do damage on the way out. You're just going to look up one day and they're gone,
Hmm.
right? They typically don't have the bandwidth and energy to damage people on the way out. They just bounce. You're like, what the
Right.
hell just happened here?
Yeah, they're just no longer around.
Yeah, there's no around it. Like on to the next creative project and endeavor.
Right.
So when you're dealing with people who are brilliant in a certain type of way, you have to understand how to give them their space. You have to understand how to give them enough agency to stay vested, interested, their heart to stay in the thing, and at the same time, make sure you have some guardrails.
Right.
Right? You gotta have some guardrails to prevent them from veering too far off, right? Um, I like a lot of those personality tests and things like that because not only does it give you insight into how you behave and act, but it'll help you better understand how to deal with people who may be dealing with trauma, issues, conflicts, et cetera, what motivates them, how to understand them. That partner you work with, I know is an older person. They're not a green pea because it took a lot of maturity and experience and understanding people to grasp what was going on at the table, remove themselves from the situation, and say, you know what, let me go about this a different way. Let me introduce another element. Let me empower somebody else to get the ball over the finish line. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's somebody that
And
both like and trust too, so.
yeah. Mhm.
Well, I do need to
Mhm.
wrap up, and I'm sure you do too, because I have a lot of stuff, and I know you do too.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what it is?
Yep.
I tell people all the day. Somebody said, well, why should I listen to your podcast? Why should I listen to you and your partner? And I said, because we're entrepreneurs. That we're not podcasts. That we build things, we do things, we're growing things out here
Well,
executing.
not only are we entrepreneurs, but we're serial entrepreneurs.
And
That's
yes,
like,
yes.
and both have longevity. So, and I don't know, I guess when someone said that, I probably would feel like, oh, well, don't listen to it if you don't feel like it would have value for you. But I mean, obviously, if you have a desire to be an entrepreneur,
But
then
some people don't know better. Like, because sometimes it's hard to discern because of technology and now AI and all these other tools. People can dress themselves up as certain types of things, right? And I think ideally for our listeners and people who pay attention to the content that we create, understand we're not creating content. We're sharing with you what we do and
experiences,
the
what we,
challenges,
yeah, and
what
there's
we
social,
overcome. Like, give you a real
yeah,
blueprint.
there's
Yeah.
social as well. I mean, if you're looking at something and you want to, figure something out, you can always do your own research on something. There's plenty
Yeah.
of social about all the things that we discuss here.
Yeah.
If you take the time to, edify yourself, educate yourself, and do the research, you'll
Mhm.
see social evidence is definitely there.
Yeah. Yeah. Only people actually did something called research, right?
Right.
It reminds me of a conflict. I'm gonna let you go. It reminds me of a conflict I had with someone over a year ago, and I will never ever have respect for it. I don't know. Maybe I need some more personal professional development. But I remember this knucklehead sat in front of me and said, "I researched you."
And
Yeah, hey, right. I just looked at him and said, "Oh, you did." So that
right.
you. So if you research, You know this conflict you're getting ready to start with me. You know what I'm about to do to you, right? You know what's about to happen if you so-called did your research. You know you know what my response is going to be to the stimulus that you're presenting to me.
What was the purpose of that statement? Were we
Well,
about
well, what it is the person. See, when they can't beat you at the game, they have to tear down your character. When
try to?
people can't, yeah, they have to try to. When people can't win an argument intellectually, they have to make ad hominem attack. If they can't beat you at your sport, or if they can't beat you at building something, they have to try to tear down. There are people out here that succeed because they build taller buildings, and then there are people out here who have learned to succeed, at least in the short term, by tearing other people's buildings down. This guy was trying to tear me down. He couldn't come straight at me, so what he had to do was try to tear down my character. But it's like, if you really did your research, you don't succeed for 20 plus years without backbone
Mhm.
and without a good value prop. You don't succeed in anything. Like one of the things the person said was so foolish. They were like, "Man, do you have any friends? You must not, do you have any?" And I looked at him and I said, "Bro, you don't get 6,000 plus contacts in your phone, and you don't make the decisions I make and move the things I move, motivate people the way I motivate them to pull off some of these projects, unless you got a really strong network. Like,
I Yeah.
don't get it twisted. Just because you're not in my ecosystem does not mean there's not people in my ecosystem." So I just looked at him when he said that, and I said, for my fellow entrepreneurs that are out here, there's something called bias. When you research someone, research some objectively. Some of you are researching people and you're looking for evidence to confirm what you think already. That's not how you research people. You should be, when you research a thing or an ideal or a person, what you want to do is you want your research to go wide. You want to pull in everything you can, and then, like a puzzle, then piece things together. So you want to research the haters and the haters. You want to see their flops and you want to see their successes. That's how you really get the measure of a person, right? Um, and this knucklehead just, I don't know what he thought he was doing, but he
Not
found out
much.
the hard way. Found out the hard way. I'll leave it at that. I don't
Shots
like.
fired.
Oh, he said I did my research. I was like, oh, you researched. So you know what I do is I cut off heads. That's what I do. If you come at me the wrong way, I will behead you. I mean, oh, like take
It
them
takes
diapers, take them emotional diapers off.
it takes all kinds. It takes all
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just had to go there. What you just said, this was a real trigger. It was entertaining to me,
It's cool,
and I,
paraphrase.
yeah, you gotta. The one most important lesson I've learned, and you've actually helped me with this too, indirectly, is I've learned. I'm serious, but I don't take myself as seriously as I used to.
Mhm.
I've learned to be easy with myself and kind of just laugh, like, this stuff happened.
Right.
God willing, with all the medicine and technology, I'm going to live another 50 years. I'm not going to let this one conflict or this one bad moment or this one hiccup color the next 50 years, right? So it's never as deep as you think it is. Things are never as bad as you think they are, and they're never as good as they think they are. Don't take it so seriously all the time. So you're looking real nice. I know you about to get out here and conduct some business. About to.
Do I have to give access to a buyer to one of my listings? I actually had a couple of appointments that fell through early today. I was supposed to go meet somebody at a commercial building, but that didn't work out. And then I had another showing, um, and that didn't work out because I have to give access because my clients don't want a lockbox on the property.
Mhm.
Um, so, yep, I'll be. leaving here
They
short.
don't want a lockbox?
No, they do not. I have a lot of clients who don't want that. They've usually when that's the thing, they have been traumatized by vandalism and
Ah,
lockbox. But I use Sentry locks, which um, are harder to get into, but people have broken Sentry locks at several of my listings as well. So they just feel like they don't want, that kind of attention. That's why a lot of people don't want signs.
that is true. A lockbox is a, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
come kick me sign on your back, a lot of times. So they don't want that. And so, I just vet the buyer's agent and, to have them to send over their buyer's pre-approval and or proof of funds. And then, I'll approve the appointment and we'll go from there.
Um, you saw the duplex I sent.
Yeah, the one on Pasadena.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked about it yesterday. You said you had some
Yeah, we got some biters. We're gonna see the series.
yeah.
Um, we also, funny enough, what I like about that deal is that you got performing tenants. But I have another one that's, I mean, damn near identical. Square footage, same situation, same everything, right? No tenants that I think I'm gonna acquire for like $30,000 less.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But I would, quite frankly, if I was an investor, I would prefer the property with performing tenant, quite frankly.
Me too. And you know why? Because if I've got a performing tenant in there and one unit is vacant or even whatever, I can work around that tenant if I want to do renovations, whatever, do it little by little. I think a lot of people don't realize the dangers of having a completely vacant property.
Mm,
They don't
uh,
realize the dangers. Even if, like, let's say I have a duplex and I've got one tenant in one of the units, perfect. Renovate the other unit, get, a performing tenant in there, and then worry about the other unit.
yeah,
But have two units that are vacant, that's when you could run afoul.
in so
So,
many different ways.
absolutely. And I mean,
That
we've
that
seen it happen. So,
yeah, that cash flow is like invaluable. It's
oh,
invaluable.
because
Okay.
it's going to help you with what you're trying to do, and you're
Yes.
already on the dotted line. You're already making money that day. You already have money in the bank that day. You've got the security
Yeah.
deposit on your closing disclosures, and you have the money coming in monthly for that. So it's a win-win, you know.
Yeah.
So
Well, go out there and crush it. I'm gonna wrestle with myself today. What I need to do, maintain sanity, and get out here and make it happen. This conversation could have went so many different ways, but we'll continue it. It'll come
okay,
up.
all right, sounds good. Thanks so much.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
All right.